And let us remind ourselves that love prospers when fault is forgiven. I invite each of us today to embrace this truth teaching. Love prospers when fault is forgiven. But dwelling on the fault, on what is lacking, well, continuously pointing out the faults of others tends to separate even the closest of old friends, separates each of us from seeing and appreciating all that is good, is true, and is beautiful, both in others and in ourselves, especially within ourselves. Our unity teachings remind us that what we focus on grows. So, how do we each handle the conversations, the meaningful relationships, or even the casual encounters with coworkers or passersby with whom we find fault, with whom we disagree? Whether it be a disagreement about politics or healthcare or lifestyle. In unity thought, we often begin from the inside out, freely accepting that we are all works in progress. Let me repeat that. Freely accepting that we are all works in progress. Can we at least all agree that as long as we are each alive here and now on the earthly plane, we have the capacity to learn, to grow, and to evolve? Are we accepting that we are each God's work in progress? God's work in progress. Would we dare to critique the work of a master painter before the painting was complete? Or might we simply wonder, imagining all of the amazing possibilities, all of the creative possible outcomes, all of the divine inspiration that just might be brewing within the soul of a receptive, creative artist? I believe that we are all here in Earth School to learn and to grow. And it is through our creative life experiences that we discern what works and what does not. And then, if we are committed truth students, by exploring what is being triggered in our own hearts and minds. What have we stashed in the basement closet that we must eventually bring out into the light of day? When we feel like we are about to explode, when we are faced with what appears to be irrational, improbable, perhaps even immoral actions of others. Sometimes our patience wears thin, and our blunt criticism perhaps emerges thoughtlessly. I ask, who is really running the show? What nerve has been ignited, perhaps out of proportion of the wound from a distant past that is now opened and appeared in Technicolor on our scene, yet ready and willing to be healed if we but move forward. In Unity Sunday schools, one of the earliest teachings comes from a book called The Big Me and the Little Me. You can perhaps already anticipate the little me character appears to harbor immature aspects of our personalities. The places where fear and wounds bury their heads far from the healing light of God. Ironically, what we often tend to do at that time is hide our deepest truths from others and from ourselves, trying not to be seen in a losing battle of suppression. It is a losing battle, my friends, because God is love, infinite love, and God's endless streaming of divine love can heal all wounds. Ah, yes, the catch. There always seems to be a catch. In this case, it's not a magical wand or secret potion that one needs to acquire. My friends, it is acceptance. Acceptance of how you really are showing up to those around you, and especially to yourself. Are we each really willing to open our personal Pandora's box, the way station of all we have tried to suppress or avoid or bury deeply in the shadows? Are we now brave enough to see clearly, courageously, and pull away the veil of denial? There does not seem to be any engraved invitations arriving in the mail, no secret handshakes or secret password at the ready. We may find ourselves to be just another pilgrim on the path, each finding our own way to claim the strength, the clarity, and the wisdom that is ours for the claiming. When we are ready, when we decide that we can do better, when we believe that we too can be an overcomer, a successful overcomer of the particular challenges found in your own life's path, no matter the obstacle. Remembering that what others may have meant for ill, or for what others have always claimed as your worst fear, in the bright light of God's view, my dear friends, you may well discover that instead of gloom and doom that you are holding on to, this very fear just may become stepping stones to a cleared path of fertile, expansive, inviting, and inspiring higher ground. And then surprising yourself at the realization that you can now choose to rise above. Like a growing flower turning its face to the sun and feeding itself from the earth's own nutrients. We too are fed by God's all-encompassing love and light. Take a deep cleansing breath, my friends. But know that this only happens when we are willing to receive. Please pause and take another deep breath and really sit with this question. Are you a willing and gracious receiver? I know my first instinct when posed with this question was, well, of course. But the longer I pondered this question, I discovered more than a few fault lines. Some among us may not always recognize the moments when we play small, the times when we too quickly brush off a sincere compliment while privately knowing inside that at the time it felt like a Herculean effort that you had just put forth. Sharing an artwork or a sermon, an insight, or a bit of poetry, and then downplaying its worth and meaning to you. Some among us, I suppose, taking credit for more than their share of the effort comes quickly. But I meet far more folks who tend to underreport their labors, their struggles, and their soul-searching inventory for personal truth, which sometimes emerged as they peeled back all of the stagnant, protective layers. Step by sometimes painful step. Sadly, some folks have not been encouraged, have not been nurtured by positive thought and loving encouragement. Fear runs amok, and they cannot imagine a pathway to forgiveness. They are mired in the muck of insecurity, doubt, shame, or fear. They hear the aging recordings and replaying of doubt and insufficiency. These are the voices of the wee, poor little me self-images lingering too long in your mind. Take a deep breath with me, please. And in this now moment, consider forgiving yourself for all the stumbles and bumbles in the past. See them for what they were. See them for what they were. Lessons from God's personalized curriculum, created specifically just for you. Just for you. Now is the time to make amends for any you may have injured as you were learning and finding your way to greater wholeness. My friends, you will find a lightness of being awaits you as you begin to see yourself more clearly, as you have forgiven yourself for any you may have harmed, and as you claim the wisdom you have learned here in God's school of life. The lessons we each encounter on our life's path shapes us and informs us. When we are awake and receptive to life's lessons that come our way, just as the expert potter gently yet consistently holds the center in the madcap whirling about of the potter's wheel, we too must learn to hold our center in our own lives, accepting the hands of God working with our growing souls, receiving life challenges as but stepping stones to the wondrous truth of our being. And now, claiming your inheritance as a child of God. Let your light shine. Become a beacon of hope, of life, and blossoming accomplishment today and every day, because you, my friend, are a perfect, beloved child of God. And so it is and will be.